Hey, Glenn here, the People's Carpenter. Keeping a tidy workshop is an ongoing and never completed task, but building a shelf, well, it helps. So this is a fairly short video of where I do that, and I apologize for the fact that I'm not doing other stuff. The kind of stuff I'd like to be doing, but I do talk about what some of that other stuff is going to be. And it is quite a nice shelf. So I'm standing here in the presenter's space, looking at my mess. It's if you saw the very beginning of this channel, you'll see that this is more organized than it used to be, even though it's still somewhat chaotic. So things are trending in the right direction. When it comes to small bits of incidental mess, I mean, that sort of accumulates. Ideally, I would fully tidy up at the end of every project, but I don't. I do sort of go through bursts of tidying, and I'm having one today. But you can certainly see that there's more space out there now than there was, which is great. Things are still not optimal. Don't know that they'll ever be optimal, but there's room for improvement. In particular, that space up there, it's somewhat utilitarian, it's quite useful, but it could be more so. Things are not arranged as they could be. That junk, it's not really junk, but unrelated things stacked up there could be replaced by that set of drawers which contains some small electronic parts for guitars. And on the wall there, partly obscured at the moment by that small set of drawers, I want to build some shelving. So I know that there's a stud running down there. And there is a stud there as well. Not all these glue-ups are the same size. The first one you saw, which was basically the same size as that, was for the bottom shelf. That's 2 full-sized pieces. The middle shelf, because there are going to be 3 shelves, is not quite as deep. Here I ripped one of these pieces of poplar. I didn't actually measure it. It's not exactly half, but it's smaller, because and precise measurements weren't important because there may still be some further cutting to do. This is just approximate. And the top one, the top shelf, is just going to be the size of one of these pieces, so they get progressively shallower as the shelf gets taller, as you will soon see. Just a little bit of glue, and there will be a couple of screws as well. So this is the top shelf. This is the underside of the shelf, and this is a piece that's going to go against the wall to help me screw things onto the wall. Now I know that right at the start of this channel I said, and quite sincerely, that this channel was going to feature some old school techniques in woodworking as I learned them, and that hasn't specifically been a feature of many of the videos so far. On a couple of occasions, yes, but not many. But bear with me, because I am kind of learning the ropes when it comes to woodworking generally, and traditional woodworking is a subset of that. But it is going to come up more in future. I do have a project that I'm currently working on and recording as I go, which is very much an old-timey piece of carpentry with old-fashioned joinery. So bear with me and you will see more of that. It's coming. Alright, so this will be the very top of the unit here, and this face will be against the wall. I'll use 3 of these. Those screws will hold everything on nice and tight while the glue dries. Top shelf done, apart from sanding. Okay, now I'm just sitting everything together. And this is not quite the final shape yet. I'm still going to do some cutting. Watch this space. But just observe a couple of things. So this is going to be the top shelf, and notice how that is sitting on top of the sides. I'm not going to have anything very heavy on these shelves, so some of these design techniques may be redundant, but I think they're best practice. So the shelf will be sitting on the side and screwing on from above, which is the strongest way to attach this shelf, because then even if I did have something very heavy, the shelf wouldn't be tempted to come away or come loose or anything like that. The middle shelf, well, the only way you can really screw it is from the sides, so that's what I'll be doing. These pieces under the shelves are there for rigidity, but also I'll drive a screw through each one into the wall stud just to help it attach better. And the bottom shelf, I am screwing it in from the side. So the top shelf is a little bit wider than the others because it's sitting on the sides. I could have made the bottom shelf wider and then have it screw on through the underside, but that would have been weaker. Then and again, this is probably redundant because I'm not going to have anything heavy on here anyway, but that would have been weaker, and if there was something heavy on here, those screws from the underside would have been tempted, not literally tempted, but would have been forced or pushed towards coming out of the wood, whereas now they won't because they're going to be screwed from the sides. So let's get on with this last bit of cutting. make these lines nice and solid. I'll stand here because I want to hold the track. I'll do some of it by hand, just because there are a couple of very short bits that are a different angle to that line. Okay, that'll do. And there are the two sides. Would I put more time and effort into the precision if this were a piece of fine furniture? Of course, but it is, in fact, a shelf to go on the wall in my workshop to hold some drills and some boxes of sandpaper and so on. So I'm apportioning my effort to the purpose. Poplar with construction screws really doesn't need pilot holes. They'll go in fine without doing any splitting, but I'm putting some in just in the on the sides of the middle shelf so that I can position things correctly when I'm driving the screws in from the outside. Although I'm getting by without pilot holes, I can see some threats to split. So for the very last drill hole, I decided to put a pilot hole in. Very last screw hole, I should say. There we go. Do I want to varnish it? I mean, probably not. Just because I can't be bothered and there's no real reason to. I know. I said I wasn't going to varnish it. At least I think I said that. I forget stuff. But I decided to just go the extra mile and coat it with this furniture and decking oil to give it a little bit of protection, and because it does look nice. I can see a couple of drips and runs which I will attend to, and because it's a beautiful warm early spring day here in the Wairarapa. So there we go. How am I going to stick it to the wall? Well, I've got a few screws that will go along the top and a couple at various points, but I've decided that the weight will rest on another piece of poplar. Right, so it will sit on this piece of poplar as well as have some points of being fixed to the wall, I think that's plenty of support. How easy is that? Well, now I can begin to clear off my workbench once more and put things back in their proper place. Haven't finished that yet. I've mentioned this previously, but that's something I'm working on currently on another YouTube channel, Monster Guitars. Alright, so things are becoming gradually more orderly here. There are bits of rubbish there that I am yet to contend with. This shelf now contains my mortising tools, my chisels, my chisel hammer, marking gauges, mortising gauge. There's a square in there, marking knife, chisel sharpening stones, my diamond stones, which I haven't used yet. In a future video. My honing guide, some abrasives, sanding discs, and some steel wool, and battery-powered tools. And just glue, because... Alright. I'm slowly getting there. This should be complete before I die. And that'll do for now. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I know this is not really a sort of traditional woodworking project, and I know that's partly why some of you may have signed up for this channel. I will get there. This is also general woodworking, so it's good for me. But the next couple of videos, I believe, unless something else comes up, and how do things just come up? The next couple of videos will be a bit more along the lines of what you are expecting here. I'm making a table, a dinner table for my grandson to replace the awful thing that he currently has. And that's quite traditional. There are mortises, there are tenons involved, so stay tuned for that. And I'm also planning something that I'm not an expert on, and this will be my first time trying it, but going through my bench planes and sorting them out, honing them, flattening the sole, sharpening them, getting them into the best shape that I can. So stay tuned, there is more coming shortly.